What's up, everybody? This is A.L. Johnson with Elevated Men. I got my brothers with me. We're getting ready to have a great conversation. We're talking about the whole Kyrie, Irving, Kanye West, Farrakhan, and everybody else has been canceled lately. Is it fair? Is it right? Should it be happening? Is cancel culture going too far? Or is it something that we need to keep the peace? And so that's what we're talking about today. Andrew, how you doing today, man?
Hey man, I'm good. I'm good. How about yourself?
Man, I can't complain. Can't complain. Then we got Corey Gilmore. He's a recurring guest. Tell us a little bit about your podcast. I want to make sure people know about that. You muted.
Muted.
You muted.
Hello, how y'all doing, man? Appreciate y'all having me, man. It's the grid
What's
culture,
up?
just dealing with all type of different things like conflict resolution, just the way we deal with each other in the everyday lives, the way that we soak in information when it comes to news and politics or whatever it may be. I just give my little 2 cents on everything, and I look for feedback. So, it's a discussion, a conversation with everybody. So that's what that's about.
Love it, love it. And then Lojo, the car pro, Lojo speaks. How you doing? I think he froze up. He's froze up. That's all right. And then we got one more that we're adding on here. Big Mike McJunkins. What's going on?
Just chilling,
Just chilling,
Hey
just
Mike.
chilling. All right, well, let's hop into it. Listen, so you told me about an hour ago, you were like, Unc, you need to watch Dave Chappelle on Saturday Night Live in relation to this whole thing with Kanye West, Kyrie Irving, all that. Why did you want me to listen to that? What was that about?
I think it basically, like I told you, like people in that, I would say in that realm, they would tell you something, and then just because they are a comedian or in that realm, you don't feel like they're telling the truth. So it is a ha ha moment, but they're literally telling you something that you need to hear.
Right.
And
So all right. So
like,
mhm.
and here's the thing: the reason that I was like, "Hey, Dave Chappelle, you need to listen to what he's saying because he ain't Kevin Hart. He's not a Cat Williams type guy, right? So those are things like even if he's telling you, and people know, like Dave Chappelle tells real things, and like he said, I told you something that was real, and you was just he and ha haing, but you didn't listen to it. But like
Right. So
even what I
mhm.
told you to watch, what did you hear? What did you see?
This was my thing. This is my thing. All right. So one, I get where you're coming from when it comes to a comedian versus the average person. They have more liberties to be able to say what they want because they can disguise it as a joke, right? Is one thing that I think is really powerful, and I love the fact that we have more socially conscious comedians, especially in the culture because they do have more liberty and more rights to be able to say the things that they mean. So in his Saturday Night Live open, he basically, in my opinion, echoed a lot of the sentiments that Kanye West, Kyrie Irving did, but he said it in a comedic way, and so it was received a little differently. So I completely get that. Corey, what were your thoughts on it? Are you muted?
Yeah, I didn't see everything on Dave Chappelle's monologue on Saturday Night Live, but my whole thing, the whole Kanye West, Kyrie Irving saga. I believe they're two different things. They're two different things because Kanye's was built more out of frustration. Now, a lot of the things, won't say everything, but a lot of the things that he says was accurate. There's a conversation that needs to be had, just in dealing with that. But it all, I mean, the overarching theme of that is just comes back to owning for yourself, and are you willing to take a pay cut instead of going for the big dollars to be able to sustain and have things, be able to do things the way that you want to. So it all goes back to the ownership, because if you're not able to do that, you'll always be able to be exploited. But Kyrie's, his backlash was more because of everything that was going on with Kanye, and that whole thing, blacks being the Hebrews and different things like that. It's not my expertise or anything like that. I do have a lot of information as far as black people being Native Americans and different things like that. So we're doing a lot of research on trying to find our roots, because we've lost everything. We've had everything stripped from us, our history, everything like that, and that's something that should be understood. But
Right.
what you get is, a lot of these just labels that, you do it with, you're talking about anti-Semitic. They've done it with, when you have the conversation, they stick it with, with women. A lot of stuff where it's marginalized groups, they use that, the media uses these little terms to, cut off the conversation or whatnot. And this is just another one of those things. And so, the media putting out misinformation about the movie or whatnot, and a lot of them didn't even watch the movie. I happened to watch it, and yeah, it's not what they were saying it was.
So what did you get from the movie? Because I haven't watched it, but I've got it on my watch list. So what's the fuss about?
Oh, so well, the movie, it's really done in a very positive light. It's done, it has a good-hearted nature to it. It's nothing hateful or anything like that. I think a lot of I saw the points where they were saying were the quote unquote anti-Semitic points. One of them was quote a quote of Hitler. They used two Hitler quotes. Now I can say that one of them is a false quote. The other one, but they stated in the movie that it didn't have a reference point or anything like that. Now the other one had a reference, but the purpose wasn't to uplift Hitler or anything like that, because what they failed to even present was right after those two Hitler quotes, King Leopold II was quoted, who had mass genocide over there in the Congo. And I don't think anybody watching that movie, especially because it linked a lot of the history to the Congolese, I don't think anybody watching that movie would say that they were uplifting King Leopold II. So that was one of them. And then also there was a quote from a rabbi who was actually killed in a terrorist attack, suspiciously. There's, conspiracy and stuff around that, but he was killed in a terrorist attack. And one of the things that he said was, the actual numbers of the Holocaust may be exaggerated, which, that's fine. You want to be able to challenge certain narratives, and then if it's wrong, to put the information out on the table. When you block certain information, it seems like you're hiding something. Now, the whole point of those quotes being posted was just for the simple fact, what we all know, that a lot of people, a lot of history stuff is manipulated, and certain things can be manipulated. Certain traumas, things like that can be manipulated, because like I just said, so the conversation won't be had, and you can just deflect the whole time. So it was put there, but it wasn't stated by the movie. It was actually quoted from a rabbi, but that was only just a small piece of the movie. And like I said, the movie wasn't done in a hateful way. If there was something that was wrong, if there was information that was wrong, it is up to the people who feel offended by it to debunk it. That's simple. Otherwise, it looks like there's something that's being hidden.
Yeah. I was watching a press conference, and so Kyrie Irving, he was talking about the whole situation. I found it very interesting. But one of the reporters kept asking the same question: "Are you anti-Semitic? Anti-Semitic? Are you anti-Semitic?" And so he says, "I can't be," but he didn't explain any further. And so I looked up the word Semitic, and it says relating to or denoting a family languages. It isn't even about a race; it's about a language. Includes Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, and certain languages such as Phoenician, and constituting the main subgroup of the Afro-Asiatic family. And so
Asiatic,
we're
yep.
not even talking about race when we say Semitic in the first place, which I find it to be an interesting point of conversation. For those of you that are just tuning in, we're talking Kanye West, Farrakhan, everyone that's been canceled, and trying to determine if it's right or if it's wrong. Does it make sense or not? We've got the Fit Pastor, Mike Patton here, Lojo the Car Pro, Corey Gilmore, as well as Andrew Boykin. And so, yeah, we're just having the conversation. Mike, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Well, I think they really need to leave him
Mike.
alone. Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. I think they need to leave him alone because Adam Silver, who is the chairman and the head honcho of the NBA, he's Jewish. And he had a long conversation with Kyrie, and he emphatically, specifically said that he was not anti-Semitic. And his whole point was dealing with looking at Black people, African Americans, now connected with the same type of situation in a sense as Jewish. But we know that Jewish people own a lot of land, they own a lot of money, and you have certain people from the Chinese to the Holocaust to whatever it may be, they get reparations. We were promised 3 acres and a mule, and we never got now what we were supposed to get based upon now the atrocity that America had put up on African Americans, and that's what he was saying. But is he saying, and what he said, was it true? Now, he should have kept his mouth shut. However, he has the right to speak the way he wants to, okay, and then not be suspended for 5 games. Now, the other part about this is that nobody's talking about Brett Favre and what he did with the money that was taken from now those poor people, the millions of dollars. Nobody's speaking about that. But why are they speaking about Kyrie Irving? So that would be just my point and take on this matter.
Yeah, and it does bring up a point about reparations, and the reason that I wanted to title it about free speech, because I think there's an overarching theme here, and so maybe a conspiracy theory, I don't know, whatever. But 2016, the United Nations says that the U.S. owes Black African Americans, descendants of slaves, reparations. 4 years later, Trump gets in office, COVID, lockdowns, race riots all over the country. 2 years later, now we're having all of this censorship, right? So Farrakhan deplatformed, Alex Jones deplatformed, Kanye West deplatformed. And it seems like, as Corey alluded to, if there isn't anything to hide, why are we trying to suppress these conversations so hard? Why are we trying to suppress it? And I believe that we're getting to a point where a lot of this information that's been hidden is becoming mainstream. A lot of people understand what's going on, and I believe that there's fear of some form of revolution at some point in the future. That's just my own personal opinion. Andrew, we haven't heard from you, and Lauren, and so what are your thoughts around the situation and just censorship, freedom of speech? Should people be canceled for things that they say or believe?
Lauren, I think he was asking you.
Either one of you.
Okay. So, we got this big push about canceling people, and I understand the nature behind, people projecting a difference of opinion, even coming across in a very crass or hateful manner, but I don't believe they should be canceled. My firm belief is that if we have freedom of speech, that is to all people, and it is incumbent upon us that take a certain conversation or a grouping of words as being hateful, to a larger group of people or any group of people for that matter, and just, not necessarily debunking, but debating, its validity, its truth, without having to feel like the only way for you to be right is for you to cancel that person. I think that's the biggest piece for me is, we sit here and we argue so much about right or wrong without actually listening, without going back, doing any research on what, said person even said in the first place. We're disagreeing because, our moral compass says that there's no way that could be right, and so, we have to be careful when we are, when we don't have knowledge of a certain situation, or somebody says something that is obtuse to, what we've grown to know and understand, that we say, even if I don't disagree, let me either back up what they said or debunk what they said. Maybe they did say something that was incorrect, and it's up to us as individuals, it's up to us as people to uh, debate with facts instead of debating with opinion.
All right, Mike.
Well, see, the thing about it is that America doesn't want to accept facts, so they don't teach it in history. We don't hear it in schools. We don't hear it around now situations that we have conversations. This is a tough conversation because now you got the GMAC and all these other different types of situations that come up. And he has the right. You have the right now to speak your mind and not be punished for it, being not at a point where as you're looked upon as somebody who's anti-Semitic or anti-American when he had the right to say openly what he had said. And so this whole conversation, when I deal with my Caucasian folk, a lot of them don't like talking about these types of conversations because now it hits home and they says, I have nothing to do with this. I have nothing to do with what happened then. So why now are you talking about something putting me on the spot? Where the thing about it is that this conversation is a very serious conversation. And it is a difficult conversation for some people to have. But America, people have the right to say, and I just don't think that he said anything that was against now what is the truth. So now let's dig in to see what the truth is. America as a whole does not want to speak about that because now it puts dispersions and it puts now conditions upon them that they have to now answer to that they can't and they don't want to be responsible.
I agree. Now let me ask this. So Trump got kicked off of Twitter. Black America said, yes, get him off Twitter because we're tired of hearing him say this and that. And now we have our own people that are making statements and now they're getting deplatformed. And so when we talk about freedom of speech, does it go both ways? Does it apply to all situations? If there's a KKK grandmaster with a huge Twitter following, should he be able to say whatever he wants to? Does he have freedom of speech just as we do?
Anybody? Well, in this, okay, let somebody else speak because I got something to say on that. But let somebody else.
Mike. Go ahead.
Well, see, the thing about Trump is that when he sits up there in his campaign and he says, "My African American," you know, as though we're his slave, and we see no people that look like us on his staff, and we see him now like putting us in a box by itself. We see nothing move. Yes, he gave millions of dollars to the HBC schools and things like that, but we never saw him address anything towards the African American movement or what we've been through. When our brother that passed away, Brother Lewis had passed, did not even attend his funeral when he was a very central part of now what a Black America had gone through. You never saw him now interject or engage in anything dealing with the African American experience. And so now when you see him tweet all the time, get on TV all the time, and then sit up and bodaciously lie about situations we know he's lying about, now it opens up our eyes. We're not stupid. We're not blind. We're not going to sit back and allow anybody to sit up and tell us lies and we go along with it because we're trying to go along with your program. No, we're not going to be buffooned, run amok, had, and hoodwinked anymore. So that's the reason why we speak. That's the reason why we open up now to the things that needs to be said. And the fact of the matter is that what he was saying was bodaciously geared towards now immigrants and people. No, not all immigrants come over here that are rapists, that are drug dealers. And so he put them out there and put them in these sanctuaries and then left a whole lot of people over there without places to go. Took away, and then this whole big
and with all that being said, should he be deplatformed? Is it right for his freedom of speech to be taken away?
Because it was geared towards a specific people. And we knew that, and we're not taking that anymore.
But
so
The thing with that is
the question. I just need a yes or a no. I feel like what's his name, Pierce Morgan. I need a yes or a no. But it should Trump's Twitter have been deleted? Should he have been banned from Twitter?
As a leader of the country, yes.
So you can ban the president from speech. So this is the slippery slope, and this has nothing to do with me supporting Trump.
That he was bringing, yes.
But that opens up the conversation.
Mute the president. Yeah, like if we can mute the president, just think about that. Whatever he said, if we can mute the president, right? What's to say that your freedom of religion isn't next?
Well, our freedom of religion is now based upon the fact of our own belief. And now what the majority sees, majority knew that what this man was saying was lying, and he was now causing dispersions amongst people. We knew the situation and condition that he was in. We knew what he was thinking in his mind. We knew other people, and it was something of this point before Rush Limbaugh died. We had Rush Limbaudians around now speaking against those that of the Democratic Party, that we were no good for the country. We were dispersions, and if it wasn't for the Democratic Party, would we have our first African-American person now that is the vice president that's a woman? So there's a lot of positive things that has happened. There's a lot of situations that we're dealing with.
Yeah, but you're talking you're talking about religion versus freedom of speech, though. Those are two different things.
Well, what I'm saying is not freedom of religion, freedom to speak freely about your religion. So if you go on a tangent, say you wake up, you filled with the Holy Ghost this morning, and you decide that you want to go on Twitter and Jesus this, Jesus that, God the Lord, and then they say, hey, you know what, we're at a point now where we feel like you speaking too much about your religion or faith is painful to others, and it hurts them and their religion and faith, and so we're banning religious conversation on Twitter.
That's where abortion comes in. Abortion has a lot to do with a person's religion.
Corey's been trying to say something for a second. Now we're gonna get to the bottom of this today. Corey, what'd you have?
When it comes to these social platforms, even though they have, a lot of influence now, and I've talked about it on past broadcasts. We talk about, a lot of people like to allude to things like capitalism being the issue, being the downfall that's, oppressed Americans and stuff like that. No, the problem is corporations, corporations joining in with the government and things like that to create a fascist type of society. So now, you're able to have large influences and use these sites to push whatever type of agenda or cut off any type of political enemies and things like that. So, but still in the sense that it's a private company, they have every right to make that decision if they want to, right? Like I said, you have to hold your government and their intervention. You have to hold them accountable. But what was I about to say? It's a slippery slope, man, because you can go ahead and you can create the rules and create, you can kick off who you want as long as it goes by whatever your rules or things that you have going on the platform. But you've got to be consistent. There is no free speech on a private platform. I can't come on your show and just say anything I want to about you. I can't go into nobody's house and say anything that I want to in their house and things like that. Free speech keeps a person from being able to go to jail because of their religious beliefs or their views, or if they don't want to believe, they don't want to believe a certain amount of information. In some countries, denying the Holocaust is a crime. You can go to jail for actually denying the Holocaust. But at the same time, when you take certain actions on, political figures or whatever it may be, understand that it goes both ways. So when you're talking about Kyrie, when you're talking about Trump, understand that people like Kyrie Irving have the same reach as somebody like Trump. Now, where free speech gets cut off, even in the public platform, not just outside of the platform and everything like that, is when you're talking about things that are you're actively like directly threatening someone. That's where free speech goes out the window, because now you've created a threat and that person has every right to get proactive on your threat. So you don't have free speech. But do you have free speech to be able to, if it's a white supremacist talking point or anything like that? Yeah, you really do. And that's what opens the Pandora's box when we're allowing, especially when the NBA allowed the players to have, you know, all of these voices and be more than a basketball player and things like that, which I'm all for. But understand that these players have all type of different beliefs. And so now you're opening up that box and they get this, you know, this for them to espouse their beliefs. But the second somebody says something that you don't like, now you want to, you know, you want to cancel them. But this is what you've opened up for yourself.
Brother Corey, I have a question to ask you. Do you think that Louis Farrakhan is divisive to this country?
Do I believe that Louis Farrakhan is divisive?
Religion, yes.
No, he doesn't have. Now, anything can be divisive. You know, the truth can be divisive. Any amount of information can be divisive. He doesn't. His intention isn't divisive. He doesn't have intent of hate. He doesn't have intent of division. The truth can be divisive, but at the end of the day, he wants to have the conversation. He's spoken multiple times about having the conversation, sitting down with rabbis. You heard what he said about his conversation with the rabbi behind closed doors. So there seems to be a cutoff in between. You know, there's no conversation that's wanting to be had. And he's spoken about this, you know, for years and years. And so, yeah, it can be, you know, when we talk about things that are divisive, hell, I say things that are divisive. That's not my intent, but the truth can be, the truth can be divisive. It's just about your intent on, you know, what you're trying to push. Are you trying to push hate, or are you trying to unify? Or are you trying to have that conversation, debate, honest debate about things?
Now let's talk about the effects of this a little bit. So, Andrew, and I'm asking you on this one, and you can't kick this one to Lauren either. So, we were talking. We were talking a little bit, and we were talking about how the effects of slavery and Jim Crow and everything that we went through as blacks in America. We're reminded of it when we see George Floyd, and there's a police officer with his foot on his neck, and we watch him die live on television. It creates sorts of trauma, and it puts fear in our hearts, right? My question is, when you see someone like Kyrie Irving, who makes millions of dollars, just post a link about a movie that the powers that be don't like, and now he's off the team, he's suspended, he has to pay all these millions of dollars, he's missing out on money, he's getting lambasted all in the media. How does that make you feel? So just aside from them, how does that make you feel as the average black man to see our black men in power not be able to say anything, or they muted?
So that was today. That was
what thoughts or feelings does that evoke?
Feelings. So that is comparable to a modern day lynching. And by that, what I mean is, according to the First Amendment, we all have the right to free speech, but speech has never been free. We have the freedom to speak, but speech is not free. It costs. It costed Martin Luther King his life. It costed Malcolm X his life. It costed various people their lives in certain times. And now, instead of taking the life, what they discovered is, and I'm using they loosely, but what they've discovered is those people are afraid to die. So all we have to do is kill them in different ways. So today we will take their voice. We will take it. We will take their job. We will take it on national television. We will hold press conferences about what we choose to hold, so that they will see whomever they hold in esteem, or whomever they hold high, they will see that they can fall just as easily because we still own them.
Yeah.
You see,
yeah. Mike, you have something to say?
Yeah, but you talk about Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving caused a lot of this situation first of all, to himself. Okay, we have to understand where all this came from. Okay, here's a man that would not take the COVID test because of his own belief, which is fine. He can do that. But now we have to understand all this stuff. And I don't want to go because I don't want to get off the subject. But they brought him over here to be on a team that was supposed to be now this super team that was supposed to win the championship. He didn't play. At the end of the year, now he missed 6 games because of whatever situation of a personal problem that he has. So now he speaks now into something that now causes dispersion, not only to him, but to the team. And so now people didn't like the way he came. People didn't like now the point that he had the mitigated gall to speak about something. Now that he caused a team not to make it to the playoffs and not to make it to the final point and caused the downfall of them in which they lost money. They lost money because of him. And so now you have people in the hierarchy, the CEOs and the owners, that got just straight up pissed off of what this man was saying. And so this whole point about Kyrie Irving is that his mouth opened up a conversation now within the team, and that team was losing money. Now everybody, LeBron James, had things to say about him.
Can I address that? I took a class over at UMKC about 20 years ago, not 20 years ago, anyway. And I discovered, I don't know how factual it is, but I believe the information that the professor shared. Professor shared, it was a sports, some type of sports class, and he shared that before any NFL, NBA, baseball season, before any season starts, their television revenue has already paid for the entire overhead, cost of players, everything is already paid for, salaries, everything. So when they start the season, everything that they're making from concessions to ticket sales to jersey sales, all that is now extra. And I bring that up to say that these people have lost absolutely nothing. And if you look at Pastor Brooks's comment, what they were doing, in my opinion, was simply publicly admonishing him so that we will temper our tongues because we're not millionaires. If they can do that to him, wow, we's better be careful about what we says. And he shouldn't have did it. And he was an idiot. And now we are now taking sides. And we talked about Trump being censored. Trump wasn't censored. Trump didn't get put off the platform. Trump was a part of the machine. And the machine says that now that your relevance has to take a back seat for the next 2 years, we are going to publicly say you can't talk on Twitter until 2023. And what's so special about 2023? Oh, well, it just so happens to be the end of the 2-year elections and the beginning of the big one. So how do we get people back riled up? Well, who's a good wheeze in the Black community? Oh, we can use Kyrie. I mean, not Kyrie. We can use Kanye. He's a good old boy. He'll participate, and that'll get them boys back emotional. So we can get them emotional right before 2023 kicks off. Just as soon as we can now give Trump his microphone, and now we got them all fired up, ready to go into 2024 elections. The good old American way, and we's falling for it.
So when you say they, because I want to be clear, you said Trump, so it sounds like Trump versus they. So when you say they, are you saying Democrats?
No, it's not a Democrat. Like I said, there's Democrat, Republican, and then there's the bird. 2 wings of the same idiot. Same bird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's no
look up. Look up. There's a lot of validity to that. Look up the amount of money. Look up stories, and I'll post it on Facebook or wherever about stories, and I've done it before about Democrats that are funding actual. They did it back in 2016. Look this up. They funded Trump's campaign. They've done it with Republicans in these elections that are the midterms and things that are going on. They'll continue to do these things. So yeah. And it'll have you buying into this whole left-right paradigm and voting against your own interests because you're sitting up there, you're playing the sides, playing this. It's like wrestling, the face and the heel. You know what I'm saying? They all have a role to play. Yep.
When I say they, I mean the producers. The
Primary,
producers of this.
why is the
grand
primary
scheme.
division?
When I said they, the primary producers
Oh, you kind
of
of
this
cut out.
grand scheme. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so the producers of this grand scheme.
Now we can, yeah.
They knew they were sitting Trump down for 2 years because he was irrelevant from January 6th up until 2023. They knew that his voice was necessary in 2023. That's why they said you can't talk for the next 2 years. And we said, yay, not knowing that 2 years was, hey, it's now time for him to talk. It's now time for him to talk.
Okay, now I get that. Now I'm making an assumption here, but the assumption is the main line of division when you talk about Trump and what Kanye West is talking about, et cetera. All of this is based around race. And so if we're like 13th of the population, why is all of this orchestrated for 13%?
Because, in my opinion, there's 49% white America that vote this way, and there's 49% white America that vote this way. Some of them called it North versus South. And what they did was they freed that 13% to break the tie. So what that 49% says, hey, we give you this if you come our way. And these other 49 says, well, we'll give you this if you come our way. And we'll say, hey, all right, we's free to break the tie under the democracy. Because even your boy that we quote all the time, Lincoln said, hey, if I could have saved the Union by any other means, I would have done it. This was about the Union, not niggas being free.
Mm-hmm. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Well, I gotta agree exactly what he said. It's called white privilege. And I mean, I can't say it any more than what it is what I see. And see, a lot of you brothers, and I know me and Brother Borky, we lived through a lot of these areas, and we've seen these things open up, as to what we see, because I lived during the time where Jim Crow was still active. And so the whole point was to save the Union. And all this whole Constitution stuff, man, was to save themselves. It wasn't necessarily about us so that they can stay in control. And that's all it seemed like to me that GMAC was about, the whole situation with Trump. And I mean, I just believe just what he just said is right on point. I believe that these conversations are very tough for certain people to have because it puts them on the spot to lose control.
Now, one thing you brought up, Mike, in the first time that you spoke was reparations. And so I also believe that a lot of this conversation is happening because the knowledge of us being owed reparations, it's out there now. The conversation is out there. Mm-hmm. My question is, why do you feel that Black Americans are having such a hard time getting reparations? Like whenever it's brought up, it's like, oh, well, we got to figure it out. We don't know how to calculate it. Maybe it should be a house. Maybe they should get a loan. I don't know. Maybe tax-free living or something like that. But we've seen reparations paid out so many other times. And from my research, and I don't know everything, it appears that there was a settlement that was made. There was an amount that was agreed upon, whether it was land and money, some sort of combination. Boom, it was done. It was over. What's the difference?
Well, in trueness, I can't answer that because I can't speak for everybody. Okay. Yes, America has gone a long way. So I cannot open my mouth and now speak for what we have 12 to 13% African American people here in this land and speak for them, in which we met with about 47 million people that make up now this outline of America. They have to speak for themselves. It's a situation now that everybody would have to come now and now be connected towards their way and their point of how they felt about that. What I want is, me personally, an equal right and an equal chance. I don't want to know history. I don't want to know his story, but I want to know history. Why did all this happen? I want them to know what happened as to where we are right now. And so the whole point of reparation now is that everybody, and they feel this way, I feel this way, I'm an American. Everybody didn't come from Africa. There's certain people, just because you're black, you got the color of my skin, doesn't mean that you are owed a reparation.
No, we're talking about descendants of slaves. Like, we're being really specific. Descendants of slaves are owed reparations. Why is it anyone else that America has owed reparations to? There wasn't this long drawn out for decades trying to figure out how to make it happen, when in fact the United Nations, which we're a part of in 2016, said blatantly that America owes the descendants of slaves reparations.
But how do we know?
So, and the reason I bring that up,
how do we
no,
know?
and I'll give this to you. I'll give this to you. The reason I bring that up, just to give you some context, the reason I bring that up is because the conversation that we're having about Kanye and Kyrie, and you talk about Minister Farrakhan, and the reason that they're being canceled has to do with the conversation that they're having. A portion of it is anti-Semitic, but a portion of it is black men, understand your history, know who you are, understand what we're owed. It's a new day. That's a part of the conversation too. So what were you going to
say? Somebody else can speak, because like I said, the point is, okay, first of all, how do we know that we came from that part of the world in which we know that part of the world has slaves where they were? The transatlantic slave movement, all this came about coming from blacks being enslaved there, but now brought over here, and we are now put up on a point of free labor. When are we going to get paid for that free labor? Or is it even apropos now to the point now where we are right now, based upon what happened then? So now the conversation, and a lot of white people say, isn't America better now? Why go back 150, 200, 400 years ago? Why go back there when things are better for you now?
Well, I get that. Pastor Brooks, he says other groups demanded and stuck together. We can be bought like the 8% that voted for Trump. Hey, devil's advocate. Some black men say that we voted for Biden and won't meet with anyone who has a black agenda, whereas Trump did. And so I don't know. I know that's a tough one, but again, I believe a lot of the conversation that's going on right now really has to do with this historical debt that's owed. And I just wonder how we get past that. Corey, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I don't think we do.
We're about to get past that. And this is just my my cynical belief, my cynical opinion. Let me go back. No, this is my cynical belief. Black people, just as soon as that check hits, we will actually begin our disappearance. That will be the beginning of the end of black people as we know it. Because, and it's just my opinion.
So if it wasn't the end for anybody else, why would it be the end for us?
It was the end for Americans. It was the end for the Native Americans, and it will be the end for African Americans. And when I say that, you were talking about the formula. So the formula, and this goes back to your word, epigenetics, genetics. How are they going to find out who is actually associated with the slave that they owe? And genetics is going to actually say who qualifies. And then they're going to come up with the determination of how much do we owe that particular slave. And then we're going to say anyone in his lineage is now what's due to this particular slave person and that slave person before them. So they're going to add it all up. It might be about $15-20 million per person. And then what's going to happen is they're going to find the person that best represents that family lineage, and then say you got to disperse that, because we're not going to give every person in that family $15 million a piece, because not everybody was affected. Only person was affected was the person we affected, which was the slave. You now just get their compensation. And once that compensation is paid, don't ever say anything again, because now you've been paid.
But
now
there will be a civil war if that happened.
And not only
so,
do we
so would we rather just have the outstanding debt? Is it in our best interest for the debt to just remain outstanding?
There's not going to be a debt. There's not going to be a debt. And when I say there's not going to be a debt, meaning they're going to pay it, knowing they're calculating exactly how long it's going to take for us to give it back to them. Because back to this conversation, we own nothing. We need them to eat. We need them to live. We have to pay for everything. So all we're going to do is have the money pass through our hands. 2 generations will pass by. The money will be gone, and we will actually be enslaved again, because we have no argument. We have nothing to stand on anymore. They've paid us. Go somewhere, nigga. We're done with you.
So you're saying that the reparations conversation could be to our own detriment.
Exactly. Because we're starving right now. We're in too much pain. And 99% of the people who talk about reparations are already thinking about the first 5 things they're going to buy. The first 5 things that they're going to give somebody else their money so that they can have something to put in that giant hole.
Lauren, we haven't heard from you in a while, man. What you thinking?
Man, I'm over here confused. We didn't went from freedom of speech to reparations. Andrew.
What's it? Okay, so let me tie it together. Real quick.
Okay.
I feel like it does go together because, so when we talk about freedom of speech and what speech they're looking to mute, it generally is a conversation around race and the power structure. If you follow the people that are having these conversations, they are essentially talking about the debt that's owed to Black Americans. And so I believe a lot of the censorship could be to prevent that from happening, because we don't want that to be a broad-based conversation where people are getting all of the specifics and the particulars. So we just shut that conversation down, which could be done with anything else.
Lauren, can I say something real quick? It sounded like you said that they're muting the conversation, specifically around the topic of the conversation and important topics. My opinion is they're not muting the conversation. They're muting certain people. I mean, this conversation, they're not going to mute. We're nobody. They're muting the people that they want us to see, because that's public admonishment. That's public lashing. That's public hanging. And that's what they're doing, so that we can see what happens to people who are better than us. If they can do that to Kanye, guess what they can do to us? They're not muting the conversation. They're only publicly admonishing the speaker so that we won't speak too loud.
Okay. Did that tie it together though for you? Because I'm sorry, Lojo. Does that make sense, or am I reaching?
I'm not going to say you're reaching. I'm going to say that that's your opinion. I won't even say you're reaching, because I can understand the perspective that you're coming from. Boykin hit it on the head like 20 minutes ago, right? When he said, they killed King, they killed Malcolm, right? The biggest question is going to and will always be, what are you willing to die for? Are you willing to die to speak your truth? Are you willing to die so people begin to understand a different side of a story that they've been told for centuries upon centuries upon centuries? And until we get past that, like, they really don't have to do much. They don't have to do much. They're going to do exactly what we're seeing now, where they're taking the Kanyes, who all they have to do is be like, y'all know we crazy, so why y'all listening to him? You take the Kyries, where you say, this fool said that the earth was flat, why y'all listening to him? Like, they don't have to do much, because we are not willing to die for anything. The minute they bring the word death, we all run, we all scatter like chickens. like chickens because we're afraid to die. And what do you lose? Like, what are we losing?
I mean,
right
so
now?
do we believe that that's still the truth? Because what I saw in 2020, and granted, these were in our own neighborhoods, but there were riots all over the country, police standoffs all over the country. You laugh, Boykin. What was it? Was it happening or no?
Yeah, but are they still going on?
And not only that, with those police riots, there was nothing truly to lose. They knew that the police wasn't going to go on camera and start, openly shooting and killing everybody for protesting like they did. Now there's a whole protest that's going over there in Iran that I just found out about today about the girl that got killed for wearing her hijab the wrong way. There's been 304 protesters that's been killed, just open fire, and they're still going at it with the police because there's something that you're truly going to lose. Now, even with that, think about, and we talked about this behind the scenes, think about where the line cut off at. Because when they got to Derek Chauvin's house, there was that line of police right there said, nope, you're not touching this house. And so what everybody do? They just went everywhere. Let's go. Let's keep destroying the business. Let's keep destroying everything else. And it wasn't even really, the black people or anything like that. You had people that were going in there and being instigators. And then you had black folks that were following behind that and now destroying the very own business that their neighbors, their aunts, uncles, their brothers, sisters get employed at. And so what happens when those businesses go down? Now everybody's going to be in line saying, hey, government, help us. Come through and help us. Come save us. But they got us believing that. And, yeah, those people at the Capitol were damn fools, but they got us believing that was the worst thing that ever happened. That's the psychological trick that they play on everybody, things like that. So,
yeah, because how many times did you hear when they stormed the Capitol? How many times did you hear, boy, if that would have been black people, we all would have got gunned down? We don't know that.
Exactly.
We don't know. Now, we can assume certain things based off of historical data, historical content, but we have zero idea that had that been a whole group of black people, they all would have died. Because we were too afraid to risk our lives to do it.
Exactly. That's what the program does.
Well, I mean, but then when you see a kid with a toy gun get shot, or you see a guy running from the cops and gets shot in the back 10, 15 times, you don't really have to. You don't have to test the system.
See, here's the thing about that, bro. And I do not want to discredit any one of those lives because every single one of those lives that was lost is important to the struggle. So I do not want to sound like an asshole when I say this, but that's how they keep scaring us. That's how they keep scaring us, is they take one of us out and we are not strong enough as a unit to say we're going to keep fighting. That's the problem right there, is we stop fighting every time they take one of us out. And we talking about, they silence Kyrie, and look what happens. Who the hell was Ahmaud Arbery before he died? Nobody knew him. So don't give me that whole they gonna take the celebrities and scare us. They could take an everyday black man and scare the shit out of us. So it don't even take Kyrie. It don't take Kanye. It could take a Lauren Jones, a Corey Gilmore, an A.L. Johnson. It don't take no famous fucking person to scare us off. They just take a random person and be like, oh yeah, just take him out. Watch what we gonna do. Watch what's gonna happen. We go into this big ass uproar. We go march, we go riot, and then we go silent after a certain period of time. Why? Because we get tired. Because we get scared, because they shut us out from something else that we don't want to be shut out from. And so we just start the process again and again and again and again. It don't take Kanye. I'm telling you, it don't take Kanye. they can take me out tomorrow, and I guarantee you, everybody gonna be pissed off that know me, and people that don't know me gonna be pissed off. They gonna be like, "Oh, that Lauren Jones was a good dude. I don't know what they took him out for. He was just trying to stand up for what he believed in." And everybody gonna fight, and everybody gonna riot, and then guess what? In 2 years, you ain't gonna hear nothing about me.
Maybe we should be careful about what we says on our podcast now, because they's listenings.
So I'm telling you, man, this whole thing about freedom of speech.
You sound like Herschel Walker now.
Mm-hmm.
Who?
Oh, bro.
You sound just like Herschel Walker.
No,
I'm just appalled at that. But anyway.
I sound like Herschel Walker?
No, he did. Boykin.
Oh.
No, when he did that little voice, the little slave voice he did.
Yeah, so trust me when I say.
So is that what you're saying, though, Lauren? Like basically, January 6th wouldn't happen for us because we're afraid. And at the end of the day, the fear that we get doesn't have to do with the celebrities. It has to do with, like I was saying before, Ahmaud Arbery and all these other people that have gotten shot and killed right in our faces. And so that's what I'm saying.
And let me be extremely clear, right? I want to be extremely clear. I'm 40 years old, right? I didn't see a lot of the things that Boykin saw. I didn't see a lot of the things that Mike P saw. I didn't see that stuff. So there's not the same level of trauma that my generation has, that their generation has, because they saw a whole hell of a lot more than we saw. And their parents saw a whole hell of a lot more than we saw. So when I saw Chauvin put his knee on his neck, I was like, what the fuck is that? But I wasn't traumatized by it. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I wasn't traumatized by it. I was pissed off about it. But trauma.
Now, and see, and that's there's a difference in the generations too. So I had a teacher that inboxed me knowing that this show was going to happen. I wish there was a way that I could play this for you guys. But essentially what he said is he doesn't believe the same things that happened in the past could happen with the children that he's teaching now based on the conversations that they have. He said they're far more fearless than those before us. And he feels that we're on the verge of something big happening in the country when the children who are in school now reach our age.
I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why right now. Those older brothers on this podcast were just as fearless as they were in their 20s and teens, maybe even more. You know what I'm saying? We were just as fearless as a certain age. So the fearlessness is just a youthful vigor. That's essentially what that is. And every once in a while you'll find somebody that's in their 50s, 60s, 70s that still has that vigor, right? But that's just youth, man. That's just youth. That's a lot of that's ignorance. A lot of it is what I don't know what I don't know. That's what gives you that lack of discernment to even be fearless about a certain situation. So
it's the nothing to lose. I'm 20. I ain't got no kids. I ain't got nothing to worry about.
Yeah. What's going to change the paradigm and cause the paradigm shift is if we actually start, number one, having real conversations where we disagree with each other, but we find ways through those disagreements to stay connected enough to say this is not me agreeing or disagreeing with you. This is us trying to forge a better path for the generations that follow. So maybe you have a certain way that you're going to go about it, and I have a certain way that I'm going to go about it, but we're really fighting the same fight. So I'm not going to argue with you over the semantics. We are going to act in order for us to have, in order for our children and our children's children, our children's children's children to have a better opportunity, to have a better path. That's what we always fighting for. But the problem is the infighting that we have in our community doesn't allow us to push forward in a way that will actually bring the certain type of progress that we are actually desiring.
So but my question would be: are we?
What is that infighting?
Go ahead, Mike.
Can you say that again, Mike?
Are we under the same attack now that we were 40 to 50 years ago? To answer your question, to speak to your question.
Are we under the same attack?
Yes.
No, because that would mean there's been no progress to say we're under the exact same attack. But you made a statement earlier about they being uncomfortable with the conversation about what happened in the past. Part of it is not a lack of comfort, but some of it is more a lack of understanding. Like, I can't take a little 8-year-old white kid right now and make him feel bad about slavery because he's like, I don't even know nothing about it. Like, so what am I upset for? Why am I upset for something that my great-great-great-grandfather did? Like, I don't even know anything about it. So there's no reason for that 8-year-old boy to necessarily be upset because he's looking at it from his lens, which is, well, shit, that wasn't me, right? It's the same thing that our generation does to you guys, where we say, but that wasn't me. It is incumbent that I understand your pain and your struggle, but it is not incumbent upon me to have that same pain and that same struggle. It's important for me to understand.
My question would be, wouldn't a person be more compassionate if they knew the history in which now we came from? Do you think that would be commiserate with now the conversation?
Absolutely.
So why isn't our history being taught across the board? Why are we putting things up under the shelf as though the things we went through did not even exist?
Who is we?
The school system, our old system within
critical
itself.
Race theory.
Critical race theory does that.
So isn't it incumbent upon us to say, fuck the system? I'll do it my way, and I will galvanize.
We don't have the power to do that, brother.
Bullshit.
But you got to.
Tell me why that's BS.
But you gotta get it. But you gotta get it done because that's the only way. They're not in it. It's like what Andrew Boykin said about 20 minutes ago. They have the power. See, it's not only just black people. It's not only just black people. It's not. I haven't even been just Kyrie or Kanye, stuff like that. They y'all probably haven't heard of her, but Katie Halper just had a situation. She's a journalist for criticizing Israel's treatment of Palestine, and she got fired from her show, got called anti-Semitic. It's something that's been done over and over again. Now, do Jews or anything, do they have a monopoly on everything? No. But they have a strong concentration of power. Look at all the people who have just do your own research and look it up yourselves as far as the music industries, the sports, when it comes to football, basketball, different things like that. Look up the big, all the top industries when it comes to media, on television, stuff like that. Why is it like that? Right. Right.
They did what was done to them because that was Hitler's playbook.
Well, yeah. Well, not only that, there's a lot of things you have to ask the question, like, why is it like that? Search about the history, things like the ADL, where that comes from. That's the B'nai B'rith. I've posted this before. The ADL, the KKK. Those come from the same areas, from the Scottish Rite Temple. That's going even somewhere different. But you're dealing with a power structure that is in it to keep that type of power. It's not Jews, it's not Judaism. They're hiding behind that religion because they know people are sensitive to those certain things. Same way they do it with racism. They throw the misogynist label out. What happened during COVID? Oh, you were anti-science if you didn't believe this, when a lot of the things came out to be true. Right? So it's not even just black people. Now, black people have to maintain and stay in their position as the bottom of that that bottom caste system of this money scam that they have going on. And as long as we keep running and buying into this scam, we're going to have to find a way out. Yeah, they have the power and stuff like that, but it has to be done. It has to be done. So we got to look into things like that. It's not Judaism, it's Zionism, things like that. We have to be able to be prepared. We have to be wanting to educate, and also we have to be prepared to die, willing to die. That is the number one thing. You have to die on your things. That's one of the things when we talked about, when everybody talked about Kanye and what he said about, slavery was a choice. Was it said in an improper, and I'm not going to be too much longer, but was it said in an improper manner? Yes. But was the mechanics and ultimately what he was saying, was it right? Yes, that is correct. The problem is that so many people don't look at death as even an option. That doesn't even cross their minds as death being an option. So it's, so there's a lot to learn with this.
Mike, I wanna say this because I know I was very bullish with what I said. The reason I was bullish with what I said was because of guys like you that fought for me to have the feeling that I could be bullish for saying the system has to be the system don't have to be eradicated. You just go create your own system. You don't have to eradicate the current. Just go create your own system. And the same way that they built it from the ground up, how they built it, like Boykin likes to say, these the things that are happening now were built 4 generations ago. 5, 6. We got to think on that. We got to think with that same mentality, right? Like Dr. King said, I'm not gonna make it to the mountain with you. But he had planted a seed that is still carrying to this day. So we have to plant these seeds now in order for our great grandchildren to carry on this journey, this fight that we're talking about. Because if we quit now, if we say that we don't have a shot because of the way the system is right now, just kill the whole thing. Like, for real, kill the whole thing. Because that means that my great-great-grandchildren are doomed.
Hey, you know what? We you said that at the right time. Brother Mike, I definitely let you speak, but we could about wrap it on that. Yeah. But what did you have to say?
Well, I mean, I'm agreeing with what he's saying, but what I'm saying, how many people now in this modern day dispensation in this time even understand or have been taught the history from which now their parents came from to the present? How many of them are now be acquiesced to go along with a program or the mouthpiece of those that we see that are trying to now make it past the point of poverty, being ostracized?
You know what the challenge in that conversation is? Let me answer that question. The challenge in that conversation is sometimes we never get the history because
we get his story.
You not only get his story, but you get, and more important, you get his pain. So you can't ever talk about the history because really all you're getting is his pain. You're not getting any factual information. You're getting how he felt.
I totally disagree with that. I totally disagree with that.
Okay.
I mean, and I respect you. I love you and I respect you, but I disagree with that because I lived during that time. What is that? We're not told the truth. We're whitewashed. We're patty caked into situations that is not talked about. It's not talked about in the white schools. It's not talked about in the white churches. I've been there. Mm-hmm. I deal with a situation right now with a particular church that I have Bible study on, and on Wednesdays. Mm-hmm. And when I ever speak of anything having to do with a racial situation, mm-hmm. it's always brought about that, America is a good place. And, you know, we see what you're saying. No, you don't see what you say, what we're saying, because you haven't been what we've been through.
You know, I agree with that statement right there. And I think what I would say is if they gonna give you the floor, then take it. If
I
they
don't want
saying,
40 acres and a mule.
huh?
I don't want 40 acres and a mule.
No. What I'm saying is if you've been given the floor and their rebuttal is, well, America's this great melting power, everybody comes and makes something of themselves, take that same opportunity to be like, nah, like, I'm not going to allow you to sit here and quench my story, my history, because you're afraid to have an uncomfortable conversation. Make them uncomfortable then.
See, here's a point that I would like to bring up, because yeah, we're talking about the restoration. We are talking about the restoration, and the restoration says that if we do our due diligence, we, this generation right here, can pass a mantle on in 2050, because we will have planted, we will have nurtured, and we will have continued nurturing instead of eating from that which we have planted, so that they can now take it on, continue to plant and nurture, so that they can pass that on to 2100, and then so forth and so on. So by the time 2250 gets here, they will be reaping something different. But we're too hungry. We got to plant, and then we got to eat and nibble from the leaves as they grow, which is the sickness. That's part of the sickness. So my point is this. Pastor Brooks talked about we have to own, we have to create, we have and control. I always talk about that very first word, and that very first word is very important, because have to own, create and control our own destiny means nothing unless that first word is in place. And we're so hung up on, well, we need to know the truth. Well, we need to know. We need to.
But we won't teach it.
Well, here's the thing. We're not being taught anything. Education is not to our advantage, because
why?
This is why. Because when the pyramids were ravaged, when the slaves were taken, whenever the first cause happened, meaning something was conquered, the second thing they did after the conquering was to change the language and the source of information, so that the people that was growing up after them did not know yesterday's realness. So from generation after generation after generation, that story has continuously changed. So no matter what somebody tells us, we don't believe it anyway, because we're going to go somewhere else to try and verify it and validate it. And if it's not in the Bible and it's not in their Bible, and if that older man doesn't know it, we still are in doubt, and we're still stuck until we feel we know it. And unfortunately, we're never going to know it, because we don't understand that we are the story that is waiting to write. We are to write our story right now. We are to say, on this particular date, what's today? November 15th, 2022, 6 men got together and they reached out to their 6 degrees of separation and said, we will not eat from what we plant today. We will plant this and we will pass it on. We will do that. And
who's going to listen to it?
Annotate that. We will record that. That will become tomorrow's story that the year 2050 reads and sees, because we annotated it. That will become their truth. They don't have to worry about what somebody else made up for us before we even existed.
Who would listen to it?
I would listen to you, because I know you. And if I saw you planting without eating, I would believe your work. And then I would actually introduce my 6 degrees of separation to your 6 degrees of separations, so that we can work together doing the same planting without eating. I would believe it, because I would be a part of it. I will believe what I put in action.
But whenever you plant something, don't you want whatever you plant to grow?
Exactly. That's part of the illness.
Isn't there a point of a manifestation that should come from that?
Of the sickness that must die. We do not have to eat what we plant.
But are we planting the wrong seeds by the way we come across to America, the way we come across to ourselves?
That's part of the sickness. If we just stop trying to be right, if we just stop trying to fix yesterday and actually start where we are with who we are and build what we can, we will not worry about the answers to the questions that we don't have.
And I understand what you're saying, brother, but what happens is that if we don't understand our past, how can we now be commiserate to understand where we are in our future? We can't disavow the things that happened back in the day you and I came up.
Never once,
because that's a part of our history.
Never once did I say.
I believe what he's saying. What he's saying is don't forget the past, but the fact that we'll never get the accurate history. And what he's saying is, I believe, is that we're so stuck on finding the quote unquote truth that we'll never find. And if we're waiting on finding the truth to get started, we're never going to start. So nothing's ever going to happen. So go with what we know right now. Start from today. Begin planning. Create a plan. Leave that for the next generation. And be willing to understand that the change that we hope to see within our generation most likely isn't going to happen. But if we don't start planting those seeds now, it's never going to happen. It's not going to happen for our children. It's not going to happen for our grandchildren. It's just not going to happen.
What we're planting today is what our grandchildren are going to reap tomorrow, which is this conversation. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they had this very same conversation. And that's what we reap. That's what we're eating from today. It's exactly what we're eating from today, because nobody has done anything different. Everybody's trying to fix yesterday. Yesterday is dead and gone. Everybody's trying to fix yesterday. Yesterday is dead and gone. Nobody wants to go into tomorrow because they're afraid of what it might look like, because we don't know how to build it. However, we build it for everybody else every day we go to work, because they put their dreams into motion about 400 years ago. And now we ask for an application for employment to work on their now reality. It's no longer their dream, it's their reality.
I just disagree with that, because I'm a small little pebble, but I take that little pebble and I put it in a large piece of sand. And even though I don't touch a large amount of people, I teach people how to eat right, how to now govern themselves accordingly, so that now they can live a longer life, healthier. Okay. And so what I'm saying is that not only that, I tried to live my life according towards now my faith. And my faith has to do with the God I believe, that I love, that I submit myself to. And I try to live my life the same way. Also being connected towards how I eat, how I live, the checkups that I do. I preach and I share these things with people that are around me so that they can live a healthier lifestyle. And so what I'm saying is that it takes that small seed to now plant a garden. That garden now plants now a whole point of people connecting to, so far as being healthy, getting education. And I just kind of disagree. And I understand what you're saying, but I'm just not fully connected towards what you're saying as now the reason why we are where we are.
You sound like my grandmother. She's now dead and gone. She used to make me read Psalms 23rd to learn how to read. And then she had me read that to adults. I was so proud of myself because I could read. And she prayed every single day, but she's now dead and gone. And I'm still looking for ways to eat. And so will her children's children be looking for ways to eat after we finish praying.
But you've carried the mantle, have you not?
Planted anything.
But you carried the mantle by what your grandmother, she planted.
But I did not learn how to plant. I learned how to pray, not how to plant.
And praying is planting, is it not?
Praying is not planting.
What is it?
Praying is praying. Planting is planting.
Tell me the difference between the two.
Because if I plant a seed and it actually grows and I protect that seed, kind of like, let's say, Sprint. Let's just use Sprint. Well, before there was Sprint, there was Alexander Graham Bell, who created the phone. And it morphed into telephone lines, and it morphed into jobs and underground fiber and so forth and so on. And now we call it Sprint today. That was what planting was. Someone actually prayed over that planting and said, dear God, give us the wherewithal and the strength and the endurance to make this dream a reality. And he gave it to them, and they put it into action.
So where's the action today? The action is commiserate towards not what Dr. King said. I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will live in a nation.
Guess what we're still doing? We're still dreaming.
But our dreaming is becoming into action. We have a black vice president right now.
Yeah. And tomorrow,
so correct me if I'm wrong. We have people now far greater than we were then. Yes, we have a long way to go, but we've come much further than what we've been.
Yes, she does.
Because the plan,
she does have a really great job title working for the system. Yeah, she hey, I got a good job now.
The power structure's already been put in place. Think about just in the past 2 years, where there was trillions of dollars that was dumped into the economy. And we talked about this even from the start. We knew where this was going. And sure enough, this is where it is. Think about the cost of living, how the cost of living has jumped everywhere. Think about the cost of living from the time when you guys were young, from the 70s and stuff like now, and how it's risen, and the pay hasn't changed. Now you can inject more pay and you can rise the pay rate, but what's that going to do? The cost of living is going to continue to rise because there is nothing backing the money system. It's not sound money, so nothing has changed. They can put presidents, they can put people who look like us in these different positions. They can afford to do things like that because their system is already set. We have to get to the point now. We have to take control of our future. We have to start moving forward. We have to put everything in the plan. When you start having conversations, what is a bartering system? Different things like this. It is easier said than done, but the conversation has to begin. The money that is being used, the main thing, what they always say, what is sound money? It has to be something that's rare. It's not something that you keep on, that you can just print off on a printer and then distribute it. And not only that today, not with the fiat money, cash dollars that they're using now, but now they can just enter it into a system.
I got a question.
You will remain enslaved forever. So now you have to find your way out, whether you want to or not. What were you about to say?
I have a question to ask you. Okay. Now, here's the question. Are we better off now than we were 50 years ago?
No.
Tell me why.
Because the same conversation has not changed.
The Andrew, Corey, and I can't answer that question because we weren't around 50 years ago.
The same subject matter, and you can actually Google some of the things that you've heard. You can Google Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and their speeches. You can Google freedom riders and stuff like that. You can Google, and you can actually listen to the subject matter. And the subject matter back then was freedom and equal rights and legal protections, all those same buzzwords.
I love you, brother, but
the same thing.
But I have a question to ask you. Are black people, minority people, any better off today than we were 50 to 60 years ago?
No.
Please explain to me why.
That same nickel that bought a loaf of bread, a gallon of milk, or a big glass of milk, and a couple of tomatoes, that same nickel is no different than the $1 million that now we get. It still buys a loaf of bread, two tomatoes, and some milk.
Brother Bork, and I love you, brother, but I just totally disagree with you because 60 years ago, we would not have had a black president and a black vice president. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct.
My point is that we have people that now are owning businesses. I've owned my business for 30 years. 40 years ago, there's no way in the world I could have been successful as I am in mine because the door has been opened now for change. And now because of the Dr. Kings, because of the Malcolm X's, because of the Al Sharptons, and because of the Jesse Jacksons, because of the NAACP, and what we see on TV, on BET has opened the door for white people to now listen to who I am, and I have an education. I have something to offer them, because now those people being in the X and Y generation, they at this time are now commiserate. They're understanding now. This brother is now in my generation, X and Y generation. He may have something that can help me. So I'm not necessarily looking at his color. I'm looking at the fact of his education, what he can now propose to me to make me better in my life, so far as my health is concerned, so far as my education is concerned. That's all.
I just want to ask you this one last thing. Because when it comes to this, because we're still having the conversation, you're talking about a bunch of millionaires. We're talking about Kanye and Kyrie. They are millionaires. They live comfortably. They're doing business with everybody, but we're still having the conversation of them not being able to control their own destiny. So the question is, yes, we're able to have better, what you call nigga trinkets. You know, now you were able to sit in the big house and have stuff like that. But which is better? It's about what you're trying to achieve. Which has a higher ceiling? Do you want to have a ceiling, or do you want to be able to build something to where there's no ceiling to? Or you'll always have certain opposition and things like that, but do you want to create something to where you control your own, have a better chance at controlling your own destiny? And that's the issue. And right now we're in a position, just going off, like I said, I didn't live back then, but going off of the numbers, we're in a position to where we have even less control of our destiny than we did before. At least then there was the mindset, because of what everything was going on, and you had not the neighbors, not the white neighbors, they were following suit of what was going on, but you knew that you had a government that did not have your best interest at heart, and they were actually putting legislation to shut you down. So what did you do? We had a lot of businesses. People were trying to take control, do what they could. There was more community back then. As soon as, okay, now we got these, we get these little trinkets, or we have these little right here and stuff like that. Okay, what they say, and this isn't me, but this is people who are living back then within that day. They say everything is better. White businesses, the things like that. We want some of what they got, because it's always been built up that this is what's better. It's better, than dealing with a black-owned business and things like that. So, I mean, it's about, and you can rebut to that. I don't have nothing more to say, but it's about what do you want your ceiling to be?
So Gilmore, I totally respect you to the utmost. Okay, let me just put it out there right there. I respect everything you're saying, but as soon as those NGGAs get out of line, they come after him. Okay, you have to understand what we've been through. I've been through, Pastor Brooks, we've been through that particular point in time, in which now we live in a system, and our system is not commensurate with now the system that is us. We've had to fight, we've had to die, we've had to go through all kinds of things now to get to where we are. And so this whole point now of dealing with where we are, we've had to die for those things. And that's the question, was that, will we die for these things? Yes, Black folks have given their lives so that we can be where we are right now. That's all I'm saying. And then the brother talking about the things that he said, we have given our lives, we've given what we have, so you all that are where you are right now can be where you are right now. And we can even have this podcast. Do you think 30, 40, 50 years ago that we would have a podcast like this? No. First of all, there wasn't a podcast. Would we have our mouths open to be now acquiesced to now having conversation publicly like this?
So here's the thing. Now this is where I talk about, Andrew, the triangle, Maslow's. Mm-hmm. What I hear a lot is we are now at the fourth stage, the fourth rung. Well, we're now vice presidents. We're now presidents. We're now business owners. We now own our own homes. We can now talk online. We are somebody. We are esteemed. We have reached esteem. We are now somebody. So white world, please acknowledge us. We need to keep talking to you so you can now see that we are now worthy. We can wear white shoes too now. We have all white weddings. We are somebody. However, those other three rungs below them, that love, that security, and that foundation of food, shelter, and water, we don't own, which is why we are so damned afraid to leave this space that we found comfort in, this discomfort in which we found comfort in, thinking, but we's arrived. Knowing that we don't own anything to stand on, knowing that we don't own anything to eat, knowing that we don't secure anything.
But brother, you know, getting well, we have not arrived to the point where we need to be and where we should be, because we still the minority of minority. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. We've not arrived.
So what we do is we have a voice that only a few people, but the reason why Barack Obama was elected, because now a large amount of people who don't look like us connected with this brother that was intellectually intelligent, that met the needs of those people that wanted to get past the point of racism. If it had not been for white folks in the majority, that would not have been Barack Obama. Am I right or wrong?
You're wrong. Do you remember that 49% that I talked about, and that 49% over on this side?
Yes.
Neither one of them did anything about racism when they put his ass in office.
They didn't?
No.
Tell me why.
Because we're still getting publicly killed.
Do we not kill ourselves?
Hey, that's a beautiful diversion. But what I'm talking about is there are anti-Semitic laws where you can't even talk about the other kind of nigga. But nobody said anything about, hey, you can't just shoot that person in the back because he was running away from you because you felt as if your life was threatened, and get off with it. There was nothing put in place. No nigga should have died from a traffic stop ever. Well,
white people's been killed too at a traffic stop.
Ooh, that's a good diversion. But we're talking about one thing at a time. We're talking about this black person that seemingly gets killed at traffic stops, meaning that means they have a person who is trying or convicting them on the spot, trying them, which is sentencing them, and then executing them, which is carrying out the sentence. That is a violation of our due process right there alone, all because they felt that their life was in danger, and that was good enough.
Stereotypical radicalism.
But what I'm saying is, we had a black president, and we had 49% of the nation in office to do something about that.
But he's not going to change the mindset of people. You know that, boy. He's not going to change the mindset of people that's been over this country for the last 400 years.
Exactly.
I'm just glad y'all stopped saying we's and just stuck with we.
Man, look, I like how we can have a conversation about freedom of speech and we end up on slavery, reparations, Jim Crow. Like, man, we listen.
Dude,
that's commensurate with all that.
I told you I didn't want to have this conversation.
Nah, you wanted to have this. We need to have this conversation because at the end of the day, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, no matter how frustrating it may be, it's a conversation that needs to be had because everything starts with the conversation and the plan.
We need the restoration. We need to stop conversing. And other people.
Hey, go ahead and tell people to go to Rest in 2050 and tell them why. Be specific, please.
Okay, so go to Rest in 2050. That's the website, and you will see.
Wait. Say that again.
Here it is, right on under my name, under my face.
Okay, gotcha.
Restin2050.org, and you will see the first paragraph basically says that what we're trying to build is perpetual resources. That includes money. That includes land. That includes valuables that are tradable amongst this globe. And we actually have resources that go through our fingers daily. We don't keep much of it, if any of it, but it goes through our fingers. So the goal is that says that if we just start to save 10% of what goes through our fingers annually, just let's say $10 a month, that we're just going to give to the restoration. And the restoration, its motto is, we are not going to eat from this seed. Meaning when you plant that $10 a month and just let it go, there is no overhead cost. I don't get paid. The board does not get paid. The director does not get paid. Nobody's getting paid from this money. We're not going to eat from this seed that we plant today, because the goal is, just like Harvard, our blueprint, they planted a seed about 48 years ago. They had $1 billion in their endowment. It's now worth more than 50 billion in just 48 years. So that means it's grown about $1 billion a year. What they do with that is they use the interest, and let's say, for instance, 5% interest of 50 billion. 5% interest of 50 billion. That's somewhere close in the ballpark of 2.5 billion. 2.5 billion somewhere. And forgive me if I'm doing my math wrong, but you can verify that. So they take half of the interest and put it back into the endowment so that it can continue to grow itself. And then they take that 1.25 billion and they buy land all over the world. 1.25 billion can buy some land each year. And they now own this land. So that means that their students who are not paying anything outside of their tuition, they're discovering, they're theorizing, and they're actually testing on this land. They are actually in a competition to design the city of Los Angeles 100 years from now. So what that means is Harvard's business partners and Harvard's 6 degrees of separations, they're waiting on the results of that design, because those students are going to study the air quality, the smog, the fault, the water, everything. So that means that they're going to design what the materials are going to be, what the communication patterns will be, what the air quality will be, how to build that city. And what their partners are going to do is they're going to take that data, and before 100 years gets here, about 50, 60 years gets here, prior to that, they're going to start investing in those materials and acquiring those materials at dirt cheap, so that they will have the necessary materials, not only to build that city, but to build multiple cities, just like the design says, just like the plan says. And what are we going to do when 100 years get here? Well, we're going to be hoping to go to school, get educated, so we can apply for a job amongst 100 million people who are applying for that same job, hoping that something else will change when we bring our paycheck home, and hoping that it will make ends meet. But what we're going to do is we're going to follow blueprints. We're going to plant seeds. We're going to pass those seeds on with the instruction that they don't eat from them. We're going to put structure around those seeds so that they can pivot throughout the generations, so that by the time those perpetual resources start yielding a return, and they're feeding themselves, where the money is now working for us and the land is now owned by us, now they can actually begin to eat.
Thank you. Do us a favor, check out resting2050.org. It's a plan. To take care of all these things that we've been talking about. Fellas, gotta wrap it up. But do you guys have any last words, final thoughts, anything like that before we go?
I love all of you.
We love you too, bro.
Love you too.
For sure. All of you that are watching, thank you for tuning in. Please share this conversation with your network. It was great. We had a great time, and there were a lot of enlightening thoughts, things to think about, and things to take back to your own circle of friends and family, so that you can carry on the conversation and we can actually make something happen and initiate some change. But appreciate each and every one of you. And hey, we ain't done talking. We'll see you again next week. Have a good evening.